Buckingham Palace has now sketched the coming French state visit in strokes, so broad and meticulous, that the outline already feels like living history, and at the heart of that picture stand the Prince and Princess of Wales preparing to collect the baton of frontline diplomacy in a way no younger generation of Windsors has done since the then Prince of Wales opened the 1936 Olympic Village on behalf of his ailing father King George V. In the present moment the symbolism is even sharper because King Charles has chosen to let William and Catherine meet President Emmanuel Macron and Madame Brigitte on the RAF Northolt tarmac rather than simply join the welcoming party at Windsor, and in court circles, that single logistical choice is being read as a gentle yet unmistakable proclamation that the age of generational rehearsal has ended and the age of generational partnership has begun. Behind those airside images will lie weeks of intense cross-channel choreography. British and French protocol teams have already stitched together an itinerary that threads cultural homage, military gravitas, soft power theatre, and 21st-century tech diplomacy into one seamless ribbon. William has spent late evenings with Foreign Office Europe advisors poring over briefing books on Indo-Pacific maritime cooperation, renewable energy interconnectors, and joint AI safeguards, because the future King is determined not merely to smile and wave, but to converse fluently with a head of state who once studied philosophy at the École Normale and delights in policy minutiae. Catherine, for her part, has been drawing on her quietly formidable network across the British fashion and design sector to curate moments that will showcase homegrown innovation, from Nottingham lace artisans to Manchester graphene engineers turning fabric into lightweight armor, symbolic gesture reinforcing that the United Kingdom's creative industries are every bit as strategic as its aircraft carriers. The day of arrival will unfold in measured acts, each chosen for resonance. President Macron will descend the aircraft steps into the brisk RAF breeze, and William, speaking polished French, will welcome him not simply on behalf of the monarch, but on behalf of a Britain that wants continuity of friendship. Then an RAF guard composed of the 63 men and women of the Queen's Colour Squadron will present arms to La Marseillaise and God Save the King, played back to back by the central band of the Royal Air Force, the brass notes mingling above the runway in a kind of musical handshake. The motorcade will take the M40 in a carefully timed police escort and crest the hill at Windsor Great Park, just as the lifeguards, in scarlet coats, will there graze into the quadrangle, so that the new standard of ceremonial begins precisely where the last one left off. At Windsor Castle the choreography becomes pageant. President Macron will enter St. George's Hall beneath the carved shields of every Garter knight since the 14th century, and King Charles will welcome him formally, yet it is William who will guide him along the line of senior royals, presenting Princess and Duke Edward, Duchess Sophie, the Gloucesters, the Kents, the Spencer Churchills, acting as conductor of the family's collective presence. Catherine will stand at his side in a coat dress of palest almond with a French couture nod in its architectural collar, and a pearl choker that once belonged to Queen Margaret, so that the message is equal parts deference to heritage and confidence in the future. The carriage procession down the Long Walk has been tweaked to highlight the generational duet. The first carriage will carry Charles, Camilla, Emmanuel, and Brigitte II will carry William, Catherine, Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron, and the French Minister for Europe, a seating plan designed to broadcast that serious policy conversations can happen between rolling wheels and cheering crowds, many of whom are expected to camp overnight in hopes of catching Catherine's smile or William's salute. The state banquet that evening will blend banqueting traditions first codified under George IV with sustainable touches dear to the King's heart. So the menu will feature scallops from Lyme Bay harvested under a new maritime stewardship code, and heritage wheat from the Duchy home farm milled on the Windsor estate, with desserts laced with Kentish lavender honey served in recycled crystal goblets. Catherine, whose interest in early childhood nutrition is no secret, has insisted that every course be introduced with a short note about provenance and carbon footprint, the kind of detail that would have seemed radical in a royal setting even a decade ago. Yet perhaps the most modern gesture comes not in banquet halls, but online. Kensington Palace's digital team, working with the Government Communications Service, will live stream key moments in 4K across YouTube, Instagram Threads, and the new Royal X account with parallel French subtitles geo-targeted to Francophone Africa, and Canada in acknowledgement that monarchy today must perform not only in castle courtyards, but across the infinite town squares of cyberspace. Early analytics suggest that a single 60-second clip of William greeting Macron may outperform any previous royal video in engagement, and will become part of the palace's quiet experiment in using global virality to strengthen bilateral ties. Away from the camera's other innovations are brewing the following morning. Catherine will host Madame Macron at a round table with women entrepreneurs from Leeds, Marseille, Lagos, and Hanoi, connected via holographic telepresence, a showcase of UK-French startup collaboration on immersive tech. William, meanwhile, will escort President Macron to the Royal School of Military Engineering at Chatham to observe a joint exercise on rapid bridge building for humanitarian relief in flood zones, signaling that Anglo-French defense is no longer limited to nuclear submarines, but extends to climate-related security challenges. Throughout these 48 hours, King Charles will be visibly present yet consciously ceding the spotlight. Aides say the sovereign sees his role increasingly as steward of the constitutional crown and tutor to his heir rather than perpetual frontline performer. And while some courtiers fret about public confusion, the polling landscape seems to reward the strategy. Since the King's diagnosis, William's favourability has climbed by 12 points, Catherine's by 15, and the monarchy's overall approval has rebounded among 18 to 24s after years of Republican drift. None of this is accidental. It is the fruit of deliberate planning that began the day Charles understood that if he waited until ill health forced a sudden transition, the institution could stumble. So instead he is orchestrating a phased reveal of the next reign, allowing the public to watch William and Catherine assume each layer of responsibility in real time, until the moment their coronation feels almost redundant, because the country has already seen them do the job. Naturally, tension flares beneath the guilt. Some commentators mutter that elevating the Wales's risks sidelining the tireless Princess Royal. Others wonder whether Harry's absence from any state visit role entrenches a family fissure that will be harder to heal down the line. Yet palace officials insist that a clear lane has been created for each working royal, and that the expanded Diamond Jubilee program next year will showcase a broader team. After all, Zara Tindall is tipped to front the royal Racing Trust. Peter Phillips is curating a Commonwealth Youth Summit, and Mike Tindall has quietly agreed to join the board of the Invictus Foundation in the UK. For now, all narratives converge on that runway, and that handshake, and that moment when cameras flash and William introduces himself in clipped Parisian vowels as heir apparent du Royaume-Uni, a phrase that in one breath ties a millennium of English crown history to the fluid multicultural reality of 21st century London. Then the escort motorcycles roar, the banners ripple, the royal standard snaps against early summer cloud, and somewhere in the background an airport ground crew worker pauses to watch, thinking that he is seeing not just a visit, but a relay of eras, a crown rolling forward on the wheels of change, even as it glitters with all the old unbreakable gold of tradition.